Welcome back to Final Fantasy XIV, where we are back in the Qitari camp for our rank up. Wisdom of a Knight. Good sir, it was sir, wasn't it? Mama tells me you've been working your tail off around the stubble. Is that why I can't see your tail, perhaps? Anyhow, thanks to you, Father says we're ready to begin the X-vacation. Isn't this so exciting? Chacal, you must remember to remain calm and composed. These caves are vast, the tunnels burrowing deep into the bowels of the land. Slow and steady and circumspect is the order of the day. As we speak, a preliminary exploration team is surveying the tunnels to determine where we might best begin the excavation. We will await your findings before deciding on the best way to move forward. Understood, Father. I promise to be circumspect. Does that mean we can begin digging already? Toval Manol. What news from the depths? Digmaster Qitari. I fear we encountered something rather unexpected. I fear we may not be able to commence the excavation effort as quickly as we had hoped. We can't start digging? But why? What did you find down there? No sooner had we stepped through the entrance, our whiskers twitched in anticipation of the wonders that awaited. Where did we see them? Nasty creatures swarming every nook and cranny of the caves. A most troubling development. We Qitari are scribes, not warriors. Indeed, it was the presence of fearsome fiends and worse blocking our way through the revel that kept us trapped for 100 years. Are we doomed to suffer a similar fate here? I did defeat the Light Warden, you know. The ally of Ronkan, bringer of the night, would fell these terrible beasts for us. I would like nothing more than to take advantage of your kindness, but I fear there's a rap. A rap? A rap. In our preliminary explorations of the stopper, we've discovered that another ward seals off the tunnels below. A ward not unlike the one that barred the entrance, but with a notable and unfortunate difference. It's a ward impassable to all but the servants of the land, namely the Qitari. Now I fear we'll have to find our own way to dispatch the beasts that have burrowed their way up from the depths. But without Sir Madame Serenia's aid, we will be chewed up the moment we step in there. Tails, whiskers and all. Squee! The great serpent, it speaks. Indeed, and yet it does not move. Till now we have had only to follow where it goes. This time it appears we must fully grasp the import of its message. A message which sadly is beyond my comprehension. If only there was someone who... but of course, the son of Dwattle. Son of... You mean the tall fellow who likes to wave his arms in the air when he talks? The very same. Serenia, it appears we require your assistance once more. Might you be so kind as to see my boy safely to Sliverbow, that he might summon this Quinford for us? Would you kindly, Serenia? Father and I would appreciate ever so muchly and more. Now come along, great serpent. I wanted to fly and then decided let's just teleport. What's this you say? Fell beasts prowl the tunnels at every turn. No doubt they are remnants of the shadows that wander the forest come to life. Demons come to suck dry the currents of aether that gives the greatwood life, reducing our home to a withered husk. That could be, or they could simply be nasty little brutes that scrawled up their way from between the rocks. You know, like the ones around here. Balan, my good sir, madam, you know these creatures too? I do. Mother tells me that when our ancestors first came to Sliverbow, they were set upon by a swarm of ravenous creatures that crawled up from below. Fortunately, one of the elder priests managed to utter an incantation that drove him away. If you look closely at the walls around us, you can see glyphs carved in them. The same protective magic that served our forefathers has been working into the very walls around us. In a sense, the settlement of Sliverbow itself serves as a ward against the dangers that lurk beneath us. Just so, Valen. And it's precisely wards and incantations of this sort that I have made the focus of my studies of late. I remain ever impressed with your knowledge, my good Sir Madams. Might it be too much to ask if you could teach this incantation to the great Serpent, that he might protect us in our expedition below? Scree? What blasphemy do you speak, child? Do you think me, a humble servant of the woods, so brazen as to believe he could enlighten the divine protector itself? Look, this isn't exactly my area of expertise, but it strikes me that there might be a simpler way to approach this. Why don't we simply fashion a talisman or two for them? You know, like the ones we've always used to keep danger at bay. I can craft a simple object to serve as a vessel, and Quintford can mutter a few words and enchant it as he sees fit. Tradition dictates that the talisman be fashioned from materials indelibly connected to the bearer's home. Most of us who live in Sliverbow usually gather what we need from the Stygia swamps, but for our Qitari friends we'll have to look further east. Sonia, your knowledge of trees and shrubs might serve us well here. Why don't you head over to Myrtle's Regret and see if you can find us a special cocoon? It's a casing of spun silk that we often carry about to ward off dangers. And I shall immediately begin weaving an incantation, especially tailored to protect our good friends from the sort of terrifying creatures that infest the caves and tunnels they seek to explore. A foolproof plan if there ever was one. Chakal, you can stay here with me in Sliverbow and help me collect the other materials I need. It'll be the perfect opportunity to introduce you to my fellow Blessed. Once we have everything we need, let's meet up at Hopple's Stopple. I want to test the effectiveness of a talisman for myself before we leave Chakal and his friends on their own. A spectral cocooner. Okay. Oh, there you are. Were you able to find something suitable for making our talisman? Well, yes, which should serve us quite well. Just give me a moment or two. I'll round up the materials Chakal and I gather from a village and whip up something in no time. Just add a feather here, here and here. Thread through this length of rope and... yes, that should do it. It's beautiful. And this will let us begin the excavation in safety, you say? Not so fast. The talisman needs to be enchanted before it's of any use. As it is now, it's little more than a fancy little ornament. Well, Quinfond, this is the moment you've been waiting for, isn't it? Say no more. Stand back and bear witness to Quinford, descendant of Dwartle, weaves an incantation the likes of which your eyes have never seen. Why do I have a bad feeling about this? Why not, dear Malan? In truth, at first I was uncertain which of the many prayers I have memorized would serve us best. A traditional chant of a knight's blessed? But wait, the Qitari are an ancient race, so perhaps it calls for an incantation from ancient Ronka. Long did I ponder. Choose poorly after all, and it could mean death and destruction for our friends, if not the forest itself. Fortunately, it was then that the great Serpent came to me in a vision, enlightening me as to the precise words that will deliver us to salvation. Words which have long been writ in the Gospel of Quinford. You're going to enchant this talisman with ramblings from your dream diary. Now I really have a bad feeling about this. Do not be silly, Valan. The great Serpent speaks through me, and I am but a vessel for his divine wisdom. Hark, it's precisely as it says in chapter 52, verse 5. The goddess's claws stained cerulean. She did await the arrival of the stewards. The coming of the darkness marked a new dawn. A proud people returned to the wood, where the egg once fell from high above. O great Serpent of Ronka, gifted to us by the heavens, hear the plea of the great sage's scion, and guide the children of Ronka safely to their ancestral home. O great Serpent, do tell me, were my prayers heard? Squee! Why, I never heard an incantation so inspiring. Your powers truly are something else, Master Qinford. Oh, you're wise beyond your years, my young Qitari friend. My knowledge is vast, my powers indeed prodigious, and it's more than an honor to wield them in service of your esteemed people. Though he's prone to bouts of madness from time to time, Qinford is an accomplished priest. This talisman should serve you well. Splendid. Our excavation effort has already been delayed for far longer than we can afford. Jackal, this is the moment of truth. There's no telling what dangers lurk beneath us. Are you quite certain you wish to accompany me to the tunnels below? But of course, Father. Why else would I have come to this place with you? Together we will unearth the secrets of our far forefathers and reclaim our history. Very well. It's clear you do not take this task lightly. Perhaps you are coming of age after all. And with that, I believe it's time we start digging. Let the excavation begin! Boing, boing. Sometime later. Kital, Nuttall, and Calcottle have safely returned from the preliminary investigation to the tunnels. And the Serpent with a helmet. Oh. And what have you here? What is this? Another incantation of a great serpent made manifest before us? Whatever could be the meaning of this? I must know at once. If you could settle down for just a moment, Master Qinford. I will explain in detail all I witnessed down below. Father and I found a stone. It was big and square and covered with all sorts of writings, just like in the legends. As my boy says, we did indeed find the Stele, or at least one piece of them. What remains? According to Qitari legend, the Stele comprised of 4 perfectly square stones, stacked to form a massive pillar. Which is to say, what we found is but one part of a larger whole. And if that were not unfortunate enough, even the single stele we found has been badly weathered through the years. In many places the engravings are all but indecipherable. That's not all we found. Lying beside the shattered stone were several sad piles of bones, not of the remains of our once proud forefathers who carried the stele down below. I shudder to think of their last moments, torn apart by sin-eaters as they hid away our legacy for safekeeping. Father and I fought to carry the stone to the surface, but in that moment something jumped out and stood in our path. Scream! Are mine eyes to be believed? The beheaded serpent that first accompanied our Qitari friend remains on the surface, which means we are graced by yet another incantation of a divine protector. A third manifestation of a great serpent? Just how many of them are there anyway? At the very least, this is the only one we encountered on our expedition. And yet, if it traveled here from somewhere to guide us in our effort, it would not be unreasonable to assume that there are others where this one came from. In truth, it appeared and spoke to us just as we stood before the shattered stone. I cannot help but believe it conveyed to us a message, just like its brethren guided us to these ancient tunnels. Jakal and I pondered the matter, and we believe that we understand. The great serpent bids us to unearth what remained of a scattered and weathered Stele, and piece together our people's history anew, with our own hands and minds. I see. If the stones truly have been scattered and weathered by time, that's the best you could hope to do. Yet surely must have been able to make out something from what remained of stone. What chronicles of Elf were with them? What we were able to make of the markings could be described thus. A mighty Wonso wearing a crown, no doubt meant to represent the first Emperor of Ronka, who stood tall with a blade raised high over his head. Before him cowered a Qitari, one of our forefathers no doubt. The carving would seem to depict the momentous occasion that was the first encounter between our people and the Emperor. And the implication could not be more clear. Doubtless our ancestors, suited for battle, were conquered and subjugated by the might of Ronka, and the most Yogre would find new purpose as the stewards of history. A most fascinating interpretation, father, but if I might be so bold, I saw the drawings quite differently. I do not believe the Ronkan Emperor would be so cruel as to threaten the poor weak Qitari. No, I believe he found us vulnerable at the mercy of fearsome beasts of the forest. He slew the beasts by his own hand and befriended our ancestors, giving us new purpose as his subjects. Your optimism is admirable, my boy, but I fear that such a bright and cheery interpretation of events is unlikely at best. History is full of harsh truths from which we must not avert our eyes. But tales are still sung of a first Emperor's might and majesty to this day, are they not? I simply cannot fathom that he would be so cruel as to enslave our people. If you ask me, both theories seem reasonable, but if you intend to keep a record of history to pass down to posterity, you're going to have to choose one. Two conflicting theories of the past. One to be etched in stone and sung until the end of time. The other destined to be consigned to the dust of deep dank caverns below. Truly, this is a turning point in the grand tapestry that's the history of a Qitari. Yes, at any rate, I believe we've done all we can here. Valan, have you no interest in witnessing this momentous occasion in history? I would not think of insisting that my interpretation is the only valid one. And yet I cannot simply toss it aside in favor of my son's rose-colored view of the past. How absolutely, absolutely vexing. Scream! The great serpent, it speaks again. It does, and this time its message could not be more clear. It believes that Serenia, the ally of Ronka, should be the one to weigh the options at hand and decide which version of history shall be inscribed upon the stone. What? Me? Scree! The Qitari father and son have arrived at conflicting interpretations of the events depicted on the stele. If the bidding of a great serpent of Ronka has fallen to you to determine which version of history will be recorded. Speak with either of them and choose the interpretation of history you find most convincing. Your choice will affect not only the restoration of the stele, but history as it will be told for years to come. Once you make your choice, you will be unable to go back, so choose carefully. Furthermore, yet another serpent clad in curious armor has arrived at the Qitari camp. Curious armor, yeah. It wears a miner's helmet. Reputation up. Has increased to trusted. Borrowing the wisdom of a knight's blessed victory has set up warding talismans around Hopple Stopple. Free from the danger of wandering beasts, the excavation effort should proceed smoothly from here. New quests, and 3 additional quests today. Oof. Honestly, I'm of the opinion that we should record both. I understand why that isn't easy, but that is how history is actually made. Varying theories based on what we know, and this is exactly what this is. Interpretation. And I don't think there should be a choice here if you took this seriously. Let's do some quests. And choose another time. Underground caverns can be frightfully dangerous, you know. The workers are constantly tripping over and grazing their snouts and what's not. Thankfully, the V's were kind enough to share a recipe for the south that works wonders for scraps and cuts. If you're not terribly busy, I was wondering if you'd help gather some of the necessary ingredients. For now, you need some green wattle, which you should be able to find near Kemul's Astropolis. There's no rush, but sooner is always infinitely preferable to later. We Qitari are expert at weaving cloths, bags and so on, which we decorate in the traditional manner using various colors. But with so many of us preoccupied with excavating the caves, we had little time to gather the raw ingredients for procuring the dyes we need. When altruistic volunteer to bring me a small quantity of turmeric, I think a reward of some sort would be in order. Sometimes I wish I didn't have such a sensitive nose. When the workers come back from the caves, they carry with them the most pungent of odors. It really is quite unbearable. Unfortunately, even a thorough scrubbing with warm water will little to remove the stench. I fear there is little choice but to resort to a rarely used treatment, and as you can imagine, the ingredients required are also rather rare themselves. First, I need roughly 3 marine more. Your cooperation will be most appreciated, I'll show you. All over, all over. Now I think I cut the gathering itself out from here because there's really no challenge. I had every time 100% and yeah, there's no challenge whatsoever. It's also not interesting to watch. There's a quest marker somewhere. You go there, gather stuff. I can tell by the spring in your step you've met with some success. Come along then, let's see what you've brought me. Splendid, with this I'll have a fresh batch of ointment ready in no time at all. For I cannot help but feel that in this case, prevention would be better than cure. Perhaps if a worker could refrain from injuring themselves at every given opportunity, there wouldn't be such a high demand for this stuff. Until then, I may have need to call upon your talents again. I'm dying to see it. A superlative effort indeed. With this, we'll be able to bring a touch of Roncan elegance to our textiles. The patterns with which we adorn ourselves come from a very ancient culture, you see. And those that feature a pair of straight parallel lines represent harmony, whereas spirals are a symbol of never-ending cycle of nature, for example. Perhaps you would consider wearing some of our traditional garments yourself? I think you'd look rather fetching in one of our hats. Marvelous. Once the concoction is ready, those reeking reprobates will be the very pinnacle of cleanliness in just a few scraps. The top of my list of candidates are my husband and son. Their combined stench is enough to curdle milk. No, this is just normal beer. There's nothing. So will be helmet Serpent of Franca. But no Qitari hats at offering. Yeah, as I said, the answer will lie somewhere in between. Because both is possible. He might have annexed the territory and taken their people in as subjects. Whether it was done forcefully, probably. That's how empires are made, after all. Conquest. As I said, I think the truth is somewhere in the middle. Father may have his reasons for thinking as he does, but I choose to believe in a brighter version of history. Yes, I'm quite certain that the Roncan Emperor was a benevolent man who protected our ancestors from fearsome beasts, and bestowed upon them a position of honor in their society. Surely you can agree? The rewards you receive and contents of the quest will be the same regardless of the choice you make. You're free to choose the version you find most compelling. Oh, thank you. I'm most glad to know that you're a cup half full type like myself. I cannot help but feel my boy is too optimistic for his own good. And yet, if you choose to believe this theory, good madam, there's no reason I cannot do the same. At long last, I can look upon the history of my people in all its glory, but our work is far from over. Pray continue to lend us your aid. Father and I will send for our finest artisans. The work must begin at once. The first Stele has been restored. Its engraving is now clearly reflecting Cottle's theory of Roncan benevolence. Protected by the talismans fashioned for them by the Knights Blessed, and heartened by rediscovering a piece of their heritage, the stewards now pursue the excavation effort with newfound zeal. Should you choose, continue to aid them in their cause. Yeah. Classical, the truth is somewhere in the middle is my theory, but doesn't matter. Anyway, that's the Kefal Beast Tribe for this time. Until next time, when we play more Final Fantasy XIV, I'm Mace, and don't get lost.